We're going to start in about a minute. Okay, I think we will be starting on time so that because we only have 1 hour and we have some wonderful speakers and a wonderful program ahead. So start with Tzedakah, and I want to welcome everyone to the Beis-Yud Tammuz Verbringen, commemorating the release of the Frierdiker Rebbe from prison and coinciding with the Yortzeit of my husband, Rabbi Menachem ben Reb Shalom. Before we continue with our program, we'll get to Helen, say the Rebbe's Kapitel, the Avtzon's Kapitel, and Chag Eretz Yisrael, and also Refuah Shlema. Somebody gave me a name to say for Chaim Meir ben Hamaleo. So we will be led into Helen by necessary books, and we'll have the camera and audio will go into Sari, and we'll just grab our Tehillim and let's join in. Rebbe's Kapitel, Sari, you're there. Okay, to begin. We don't hear you. I don't hear you.
On mute. Okay.
But now we do. Fine.
Let me stand up. Share Amalai to David, Lulei Adonai Shahaya Lanu, Yerimar Na Israel, Lulei Adonai Shahaya Lanu, Bekum Aleinu Adam, Azai Chaim Balaunu, Bacharois Apam Banu, Azai Hamayim Shetafunu, Nachla Avar Nafshenu, Azai Avar Nafshenu, Hamayim Azaidoinim, Baruch Adonai Shaloinu Sananu Terev, Beshineim, Nafshenu Ketzipoinim Leta, Mipach Yoikshim Hapach Nishbar Vanachnu Nimlotnu, Ezreinu B'Shem Adonai Eser Shomayim Va'aretz. Now the Rebbe since Kapitel Kuf Chavei, Shir Hamalais Habaytchim B'Adonai Kehar Tzion Lo Yimait Le'elam Yeshed Yerushalayim Harim Saviv La B'Adonai Saviv Le'amoy Meyata V'Yad Olam Ki Lo Yanuach Shevet Haresha Al Gora HaTzadikim Leman Lo Yishlechu HaTzadikim B'Avlasam Yedeyim Heitiva Adonai LaTovim Le'Yisharim V'Liboisam V'Amatim HaKalkalaisam V'Lichem Adonai is Pa'alei Ha'oven Shalom Al Yisrael. Kapitel Chaf. Lav Natseach Mizmar LeDavid Yam Adonai B'Yom Tzara Yisagef Hashem Elohei Yaakov Yishlach Ezra Chamikodesh Umitzion Yisadeka Yizkar Kol Mechaisecha Ve'elascha Yidash Nesela Yiten Lecha Chilevavecha V'chol Atzascha Yimale Niranina Bishua Secha Shem Eloheinu Nidgoy Yimale Adonai Kol Mishal Secha Ato Yadaiti Ki Yoshi Adonai Mashiachoi Ya'anehu Mishmei Kochoi B'Givuros Yesha Yeminoi Eile Varechev Ve'eile Vasusim V'anachnu B'Shem Adonai Eloheinu Naskir Heima Karu V'Nafalu V'anachnu Kamnu V'Nisaydod Adonai Hoshia HaMelech Ya'aneinu V'Yom Kareinu Yechi Adonenu Meirenu V'Rabbeinu Melech HaMoshiach La'olam V'od Yechi Adonenu Meirenu V'Rabbeinu Melech HaMoshiach La'olam V'od Yechi Adonenu Meirenu V'Rabbeinu Melech HaMoshiach La'olam V'od.
Thank you so much, Sari. Being there for us. Thank you. We're doing again. Okay, so a couple of the buzzwords we hear very often and very prevalent of Xaver now in individuals and groups are Amunah B'Tachon, strengthening our connection with the Eibishter and feeling his love and compassion for us. And what I found in my life is when I'm here that way, more relaxation, calm, security, knowing that Hashem is taking care of everything. Rebbe has told us numerous times to learn Sefer Shar B'Tachon. We see so many individuals and groups that are popping in, but are learning this Sefer as a guide to have more of an awareness of the Eibishter, of really understanding and feeling that compassion, and we want, knowing that the Eibishter is there for us, getting us through sometimes very challenging times. I find in many ways my husband was a Jitmachaya for that, for our family, reminding us to think good, track the Zangut, and to strengthen our Amunah B'Tachon in the Eibishter. We have two amazing speakers tonight. We have a wonderful, wonderful program. The first speaker is actually a landsman of mine from Chicago, a longtime friend, very long-time friend. She's been in Chicago as a shulchan probably a good 36 years. She is amazing shiurim. There's hundreds. I think every night she pretty much teaches hundreds of shiurim that could be actually access to listen to. And I've definitely witnessed many of them. She has a website. I think it's a YouTube canal, Rabbeinu, so you could access the shiurim there. And so looking forward to hearing you. Thank you so much, Mrs. Turen, for being there for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Vegi.
You're all yours.
Thank you. Good Yantif. It's Yud Beis Tammuz. It's Yantif. I'd like to start by sharing a meaningful to me vart from the Rebbe Rayatz. The Rebbe Rayatz, after the release, after Gimmel Tammuz, after Yud Beis Tammuz, after Yud Gimmel Tammuz, the Rebbe Rayatz said once, if before the 15th of Sivan, 1927, if before I could have paid all the money in the world to save myself, even a few seconds, a few minutes of that incarceration, I would have given all the money in the world. Now, after Gimmel Tammuz, after Yud Beis Tammuz, after Yud Gimmel Tammuz, now, if someone would want to buy off of me a few moments of my imprisonment, I wouldn't sell it for all the money in the world. Because the Rebbe Rayatz saw the growth. He saw the gain. It's not what we're asking for. It's not our script, but it was Hashem's script. It's worth it. It's kedai. This is true for the Rebbe. This is true for us as well. And sometimes, even when we don't see it as clearly, we trust. What Klal Yisrael just experienced, what the world just experienced in this 12-day war expresses this tremendous principle of how we operate with bitachon, with trust, in a natural, supernatural world. We work within nature. There was a tremendous, as we call it, window of opportunity, and there was tremendous pressure. Iran had enriched uranium, for sure up to 60%, possibly up to 80%. It takes 90 to make a bomb. So there was tremendous, tremendous pressure. And by the way, for civil use, you need less than 10% enriched. So there was a tremendous pressure to destroy the nuclear reactors. To get from 60 to 80 to 90 is how many days away? It's ticking. The clock is ticking. Natural pressure. At the same time, because of October 7th, there was a tremendous window of opportunity to cause such a blow to Iran that we would never have been able to do before. Because of October 7th, Hamas was so weakened. Hezbollah, so weakened. Hezbollah, Iran has been pouring money in for years to be that terrorist organization harming Israel and keeping them from harming Iran. Well, guess what? Hezbollah's too weak. And Syria, an Iran proxy under Assad. What happened? Again, because of October 7th, when one more time people rebelled against Assad's cruel, horrific regime, every time, what would he do? One proxy helps another proxy. Assad would call in Hezbollah. But this time, they said, we're not coming. We're too weak ourselves. We're barely surviving. We can't come and fight your wars for you. And it still made no sense. Assad, he had an army of 200,000 and some rebels on trucks with RPGs. What happened to his army? We see videos. Officers literally tell the soldiers, go home. And they throw down their uniforms and leave. And in a short time, from a very weak enemy, Assad had to run. So no Hamas, no Hezbollah, no Syria. At this point, they're so much more vulnerable. But it was even more than that. Already in January of 2024, because of what was going on back and forth since October 7th, Israel had sent a drone that destroyed very significant aerial defenses. And then in April of 2024, I was there, when Iran sent over 300 missiles and drones to Israel, and in retaliation, Israel sent very targeted drones, very targeted missiles to knock out key radar and aerial defense systems. So what does this mean? This means, from the physical perspective, we have a very natural pressure. There's a literally time bomb ticking, and we have a military window of opportunity. So nature is saying, do it, and do it now. And at the same time, famous Vart we know, at West Point, we don't teach Israel's wars because West Point doesn't teach miracles. So all that Israel accomplished with all of this natural strategy I just laid out could never be and never will be duplicated by any other country. We know it's God's war. People are saying, oh, Israel's reinvented modern warfare. Oh, all the armies of the world are going to be studying this and copy this. Well, let's be real. Russia has had 3 years to have modern warfare with Ukraine. And in 3 years, they haven't accomplished what we accomplished in 12 days. And it's not only from this situation. We can go back. Entebbe, 1976. In 1976, in about 3 days, we were able to rescue 103 hostages in Uganda, hostages surrounded by the Ugandan army, hostages with terrorists guarding them, from Israel to Uganda, with about 3 days preparation. A mere 4 years later, that was 1976. In 1980, America tries to simulate it. They have months to practice, literally. Our embassy in Iran had been taken hostage. There were 66 diplomats. America tried to do an Entebbe. They sent the helicopters. The helicopters never even made it to the site. And unfortunately, 8 American servicemen died in the effort. So, no. Today, we have an Iron Dome. And in Israel, the Iron Dome is 95% effective. Guess what? Ukraine also has an Iron Dome. And in Ukraine, the Iron Dome is 50% effective. West Point doesn't teach Israeli wars. West Point doesn't teach miracles. I don't know if anyone's going to try to simulate what we just did, but what I know is no one will succeed. So we trust and we make huge leaps of faith within nature, totally beyond nature. We need to trust on a lot of levels. We even sometimes need to trust our mistakes. I want to share with you my failure story, right? It's easy to say my success story. I think that my failure stories are a little more interesting. A story, personal story that happened with me. I messed up several years ago. I have a class. This was pre-COVID. It was in-person class at that point. I have a woman that's been attending for about the 15 years of the class's existence. And unfortunately, her son married out to a very sweet girl. I'm going to call her R, not to say her name. Very sweet R. And because she's such a sweet, lovely girl, she would come with her mother-in-law to my class. Let me, explore, understand this new world I've entered or have a connection to now. Let me get to know what Judaism is. So she would come to my classes. Now that year, Behashgacha Pratis, my school's production, which was a very powerful video, was on intermarriage. And as soon as the DVDs were ready, I was so proud of them and I so wanted to share them. So of course I presented them at my class to sell and have everyone watch and be inspired. Not computing and remembering that R is sitting right there. Not remembering that R is so nice as she is, so she of course bought one of the DVDs. To compound the error, there was another woman in the class that for some reason went totally off topic. I mean, that happens every class, of course, and started asking me about intermarriage. And again, totally not thinking, or maybe I was a little, I don't remember, but I just ignored the reality and went into a whole passionate answer on the horrors of intermarriage. So here's R. She buys a DVD. She just heard me blasting intermarriage. Then she goes home and watches the DVD, all about intermarriage. And needless to say, R never came to any of my classes again. My failure story. But we can fast forward a few years. We can fast forward till today. And today, there's a miracle story. What's the miracle story? I don't know how often this happens, but R and her children all were Megayer Kahalacha. They all converted according to Jewish law. They live now. They moved to be close to a Chabad house. They go to shul every Shabbos. They're completely religious. They already have plans where they're sending their sons to yeshiva. And when I'm looking at this miracle story, as I confided to R's mother-in-law, I'm like, remember what happened? Of course she remembered what happened. I said, you know what? It was my mistake. I'm not whitewashing it. It was completely a mistake on my part. But God doesn't make mistakes. Maybe she needed to hear that. Maybe she needed to hear it so strong, so intense, double blow, and maybe it was simmering inside of her. Maybe it was percolating. And maybe it's what helped her take certain steps that Baruch Hashem brought to the miracle story that's alive and true today. So I messed up completely, but Hashem doesn't mess up. Hashem doesn't mess up. And sometimes, we can look at ourselves, not that we're trying to look to mess up, but if it happened, we can say, Hashem, I messed up, but I'm going to trust you. I'm going to trust you even in my mess ups. I think another aspect I want to focus on in trust is knowing and trusting that Hashem always takes care of us, even when we're spaced out, meaning we're completely unaware of what he's doing. He's taking care of us about things we're not even thinking about. And I'd like to share a personal story on that one too. It's a long story. I'll try to make it brief. A number of years ago, by one of my son's bar mitzvah, I did a few unusual things for myself. One, I went to shul on Shabbos. I usually have somebody at home that I can't. Two, I was wearing my diamond ring. I never wear my rings, but it's my son's bar mitzvah. And three, I did something else I never do. Never go to shul on Shabbos, right? Never wear my rings. And I never washed at a kiddush, but it's my son's bar mitzvah. So I washed. Shul, diamond ring, washing, right? Another fatal mistake. I didn't realize till a few hours later. I look at my fingers and I'm like, where's my ring? And of course I right away understood. I washed and I took it off and I forgot to put it back on. Where's my ring? Well, nothing I could do about it. Shabbos almost over. I have the bar mitzvah celebration, Motzei Shabbos, celebrated the bar mitzvah with much joy. And when it was all over, I said to one of my sons, we're going back to the shul. We've got to go through every garbage bag. We went, we searched every garbage bag. We searched the shul. I came back 2 more times that week. Forget it. It's gone. Okay. Life moves on. That was Tavis. That was December. In June, I get a WhatsApp message from a friend of mine, another woman in our shul. She says, I think I found your ring. I responded, you didn't find my ring. That was December. This is June. I've had in the interim other people that think they found my ring. They're generally from Claire's. You didn't find my ring. She came to my house. She had my ring. What was the story? Well, her young daughter saw the ring where I left it, promptly put it on her finger and walked home. And no one's paying any attention. She has this pretty ring, again, Claire style on her finger. Nobody's looking at it. Nobody's noticing. That was in December. God protected my ring from December till June. I'm not going to share all the details, just a few. Well, at a certain point, she lost the ring. Okay, nobody thought much about it. But fear not, Pesach came. When Pesach came, they lifted up all the mattresses and they found under one of the mattresses my ring. It's found. But then she lost it again. And then, because it's before Pesach, and of course you're cleaning through your house, they decided they're going to toss their old tattered couch. And as they were tossing it, they noticed this little girl's ring in it. my ring about to go in the alley. She got it back. And she's wearing the ring, and she's wearing the ring, and she's wearing the ring. At a certain point, in about June, her teacher says, I think that ring must be real because you've worn it so long, it should have turned green by now. She comes home. She tells her mother, my ring, the teacher says, is real. The mother looks at the ring, and she looks at it more closely, and she's like, it's real. It's a diamond ring. But where did you find a diamond ring? And then this friend of mine, who's such a special person, is thinking, where could her daughter have found a diamond ring? And she remembered that she had an extra diamond ring. Her mother had given her diamond ring. It was her inheritance. And because she knew someone who was getting married and didn't have a diamond ring, and she gave him her mother's ring, and then a few years later, he sent it back. It was a little vague in her head what her mother's ring looked like. She's like, oh, this must be my mother's ring. So there was my diamond about to go into her jewelry box forever. And then her husband came home, and she shared with him the story of her mother's ring. And he looked at the ring. He said, that doesn't look anything like your mother's ring. Mrs. Turen lost her ring in shul. Maybe it's Mrs. Turen's ring. Well, it was. I cannot tell you how emotional I felt when I saw the ring. Not for the ring, for something much bigger. For thinking how much Hashem was taking care of me. I did not spend 6 months mourning my ring. I was not thinking about my ring, but he was. He was taking care of it when I was not even concerned about it. That's my personal story. I ask or suggest every one of us should find our own personal stories. We all have them. We all have them. Find your story. Remember your story. Rejoice in your story. Know Hashem is taking care of you, even when you're not paying attention. And the more you know that, the more natural it is to trust. As Fagi mentioned, the Rebbe would always tell people to learn Shar HaBitachon in Chayvus HaLevavos, to strengthen Bitachon. So I thought, like Fagi, I'd like to share 2 thoughts from Chayvus HaLevavos, Shar HaBitachon. One, very foundational. Trust in Hashem brings happiness and joy. It's a peaceful heart, freedom from worries, freedom from worldly concerns, a tranquil spirit, undisturbed by whatever physical lacks we have, calm, secure, peaceful. In other words, it's worth it. It makes sense. If I really trusted, boy, would my anxiety level be different. It's worth it. Now, of course, we also know how trust creates reality. It's worth it for that reason as well. We know the level of inner peace and contentment. It's worth it for that reason as well. It's so worth it. So what's my problem? Well, besides my Yetzer Hara, the fact of how beneficial trust is, how many brachos, how many blessings are connected to trust, well, we all know. If it's that blessed, if it's that powerful, it's challenging. That's the rules. We just had this past Shabbos in Pirkei Avos, Lefum Sa'ara Agra. According to the effort, the pains is the reward. If we're seeing the reward, if we're seeing the benefits of trust, it means it's going to be a job, but a real, worthwhile job. And this is true for life in general. The more important, the more difficult. The Rebbe actually says this. Amazing. He tells us, secret of our existence. If you want to know why your soul is here, now, of course, in the cosmic level, overarching, we all know why we're here. We're here to bring Mashiach. We know. We're the generation of the Tower of Babel. We're the generation of the Exodus from Egypt. We're the generation of Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. And we came back to bring redemption. We did it before. We're doing it again. We know how to do it. But additionally, every one of us has an individual role. Well, how do you know what it is? The Rebbe says, what's most difficult? The fact that it's most challenging cues us in. This is so significant. That's why it's so challenging personally for each one of us. So just as it's true for our reason for being, it's also true for trust. Another concept from Shar B'Tachon that I feel is just so timely. Shar B'Tachon writes, the illusion that the natural cause affects change. We look at the physical world, this caused this to happen. He writes, impossible. Hashem, God, He causes everything to happen, which goes right back to the war with Iran and right back to every detail of our personal lives. There were so many miracles in those 12 days. I'm going to focus on one to express this point. The first night, Thursday night, the planes are on their way. It's a long journey and it's a dangerous journey. Every pilot knew exactly his destination, his target. Every pilot had to fly over 900, sometimes very dangerous miles. They're not fighting a terrorist organization. This is a very large country with a very sophisticated aerial defense system. And at a certain point, the network in Iran sent the message to the government in Israel, we got found out. The Iranians know what's going on. The Iranians figured it out. We tried covert, this, that, didn't work. So all those people, that first night, we had all these targeted eliminations, the nuclear scientists, heads of government, heads of military. A lot of them got the message and they left their homes. And Israel, them in the bunker, as they call it, in the bor, in the pit, the underground, highest of the high levels of security and government, they share the news and they feel really bad. We are starting off with a fail. We know this was very dangerous, very crazy brave of us to try, and it's already messing up. Well, Israel's plans messed up, but not God's. Because what happened was all of those people that left their beds because they heard what was going on, they all went to one place to converge and strategize what to do. So instead of a number of missiles, a number of hits to eliminate, we sent one missile and got all of them. Far better than the original plan. We have our plans, and sometimes it looks like our plans aren't working. Hashem has his, and his are always better than ours. It's true globally. It's true with the Iran-Israel war. It's true in our lives. We have to trust. We have to trust that our life probably won't be exactly according to our script. It will be better. It will be according to Hashem's script. And so often, when I'm talking to someone, sure, when most of us are talking to people, irrelevant of the individual window dressings, the core of every story seems to be the same. Trust. Trust more. Trust more. It's like the generic chicken soup for the weary of gullus soul. And maybe that's true, because when we live trust, we are living Mashiach. What's Mashiach? Mashiach is the reality, ein od milvado. We're going to look, we're going to see, effortlessly, all is God. That's Mashiach. What's trust? Trust is the reality of ein od milvado with tremendous effort. With tremendous effort, we look and we see all is God. So living with trust means living Mashiach. And living Mashiach brings Mashiach. That's the reason now, as the Rebbe explains, that we're so close to the Eskalos. We're so close to the complete revelation of Mashiach. Our ability to trust is so much greater than ever was possible before. In the Rebbe's most fundamental talk on trust, the Rebbe highlights Yaakov Avinu, Moshe Rabbeinu, and expressing how, so to speak, they didn't trust as they were supposed to. Now, you learn this talk and you think, Yaakov, no, Moshe, no, but me, yeah, I'm going to do it. What's my takeaway supposed to be? The point is, we're holding in the cosmic clock. At this point, the Hiskalos, so close to the revelation of redemption, yes, we can accomplish what they couldn't. We can trust in a way no one ever trusted before, because we must. And as we do, we will perfume our environment, especially our family and mushbos. In my family, on Pesach, we do not buy anything, only before. And inevitably, every year, there's something we're running short of. And of course, many things that we have way too much of. And many years, somehow, it seems to be the oil. So one year, it's the oil. And I'm trying to scrape every piece of schmaltz I can from the chickens. I mean, you need oil. And I remember my daughter telling me, she said, Ma, you trust Hashem for everything. Trust Hashem, the oil will last Pesach. And I did, and it did. So may we live up to the challenge. May we live up to our role. May we be blessed to exude trust so much that it comes back to us when we forget. And may our good resolutions now in all of this already bring the complete revelation of Malkeinu Meshachenu with the Rebbe Rayatz on his birthday, on his Chag HaGeula now. Yechi Adonenu Moreinu Rabbeinu Melech HaMashiach La'olam Va'ed. Thank you.
No words. The brilliant and insightful words you gave over, Mrs. Turen. How to absorb it within myself, how to really take it in. I'm sure all of us are just tremendously awed by everything that you said and the personal scenarios about the ring and about the intermarriage. Mistakes, no mistakes. The beautiful points you brought up from Sefer Shar B'Tachan. I feel I must listen to this over and over again to be able to really absorb everything we gave over and all this leading up to Mashiach, leading up to our time, the Skalas of Mashiach. Thank you so much. Without further ado, because I know we only have a short amount of time, and our second speaker is a well sought after speaker, so personal friend of our family, aside Rabbi Gershon Avtzon, besides being the Rosh Yeshiva of Yeshivas Lubavitch, Cincinnati. He gives very insightful, well-known, brilliant Pirkei Avos shiurim every week. He's known for his numerous, tremendous, brilliant articles, Chinuch, Intermission, Mashiach HaGeula, and so much more, and for his tremendous chesed. So we're very happy and thankful for having you here, Rabbi Avtzon. Waiting to hear from you. Thank you.
Good evening, L'chaim, everybody, on this special evening of the Chag HaGeula of Yud Beis Tammuz, the birthday of the Frierdiker Rebbe, the Geula of the Frierdiker Rebbe, day that the Rebbe was told that it's his time to get out of prison, out of the Golos of Kastrama, which heralds in the Geula itself the next day, which this is the era that we are living in when we hear the Bsuras HaGeula of the Rebbe and we wait for the imminent Hisgalos that the Rebbe should take us out of Golos. When Mrs. Rapp called me and she asked if I can share a few words by the Farbrengen tonight, which it's a privilege, honor, and pleasure to participate in the Farbrengens of the Neshei Chabad, she asked me what should my titles be. Now, titles are for tombstones. We don't need titles. I said that if you want to say anything on this night, you should mention that my claim to fame in this Farbrengen is having the privilege to serve on the board of the Chabad of the airport, which is the institution that Rabbi Yikasil Rapp Olav Shalom, whose yahrzeit is tonight, had the schus to start and to run for decades, and is run today by his dedicated son, the Shliach Rabbi Yossi Rapp, who was one of our Talmidei Hashluchim, and it's a true privilege to be able to participate in the work. And you're talking about hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tefillin, daily flights, and Sefer Torah, thousands of letters, and made the schus of all the mitzvahs that happen in many airports around the world that have Chabad ear branches, via Ili Nishmas for Rabbi Yikasil Rap Olav Shalom, and a schus for the entire Mishpacha and for Klal Yisrael. I would like to start with a story that I heard from Rabbi Yossi Rap a few months ago, that since I heard this story, it changed my whole perspective on what it means to live with Geula and why it's so important to share the message of Geula with the entire world. I thought that after spending many years studying the Siches, the Maimorim, the letters of the Rebbe about Geula and Moshiach, I thought I sort of got it and understood the message and the approach. Hearing this story from Rabbi Yossi Rap was a fundamental shift, a paradigm shift, and a tremendous inspiration for me to really, really refocus and to appreciate the importance of the message and why it's so important that we live and learn and teach Moshiach to the entire world. Listen to this hair-raising story, simply not to be believed. If I did not hear it from Rabbi Yossi Rap, who heard it from the person himself by his Shabbos table, I probably would not believe the story. So when the war broke out after October 7th, 2023, Simchas Torah, so when you work with El Al, so obviously the security, the attendants, a lot of people involved with the airline are Israeli, and inevitably, many of them dropped their civilian jobs, ran back to their units, whether it was voluntarily or mandatory. Most people felt the need, the desire, the deep, deep sense of duty and responsibility for Klal Yisrael, for Bnei Yisrael. This is a time that Chas v'Shalom, Oimdim Aleinu l'chaleseinu, and we V'Kadosh Baruch Hu Matzilenu, and we have to do our part. So many of the workers, the steady security team of El Al at JFK, they went back to their units, to their regular, not regular, but the units that they were in when they served in the IDF. Now, a year later, after spending a year in Gaza and in the craziest of conditions, so some of them came back to their civilian jobs. They were switched out and they did their shir, and now they came back to JFK. So there was a group, a few soldiers that came back to do their civilian job at JFK, and Rabbi Yossi Rap invited them to a Friday night meal in his apartment in Crown Heights. So they came and they had a little l'chaim, a farbrengen, and one of the soldiers looked at Rabbi Yossi and he told him, "Do you remember what you gave me right before I left to go fight in Gaza?" So he says, "I don't remember anything." He says, I want you to think deep. I want you to think about what you gave me right before I left, because the thing that you gave me literally changed my life. Not only did it change my life, it gave me the inspiration to fight. It gave me the inspiration to lead, and it gave my entire unit the ability to literally fight these Rishoyim Achzorim. So Rabbi Yossi is thinking to himself, what did I give this guy? Was it a chitas? Was it the picture of the Rebbe? He's trying to remember what he gave him. He says, I don't remember. He says that right before I left, I asked you, now again, it's not about the object, but listen to the story. He says, I asked you for a Mashiach flag. I saw Hasidim had these flags, and I asked you, can you get hold of a flag for me? Now, I'm here. It's not about the agenda of putting up flags, but here's the story. And you were nice enough, and you got me a flag. Okay. Rabbi Yossi is sitting by a Shabbos table, And he's trying to imagine to himself, how could a flag of Mashiach have such an influence on a group of soldiers in Gaza? Like, what's the connection between a flag with the word Mashiach on it, with soldiers fighting for their life, fighting for our people in Gaza? So the person who is not frum tells the following story. Tells Rabbi Yossi, you have no idea what it means to fight in Gaza. You're talking about any moment. It's not conventional war. Even any war is so difficult to fight. You're talking about going into enemy territory. There are mines all over the place. You have no idea if at any second is going to pop up an animal in the shape of a human from a tunnel. You don't know if the house next to you is going to explode. Like, the tension, the anxiety, the tenseness is so palpable, so real. You can't eat, you can't sleep, because even in the secure zones that officially the IDF secured, any moment there can be an ambush. You're living in their little Gehenna. You're entering a hornet's nest. Every step is another trial. Every step is another risk. So here we are, days into this milchama, and unfortunately, they lost friends. Unfortunately, they hear stories of soldiers that lo yaleinu were either maimed or killed. Hashem yinkum damam. And one night, this group of about 20 soldiers, and these are high, seasoned warriors, are sitting around the fire, are sitting in their little encampment. And one of the soldiers looks up and asks a question which made everybody stop. He asked the question, why are we fighting? Why are we fighting? Now, all the soldiers, they were shocked by the question. What do you mean, why are we fighting? We're fighting because these murderers, these beasts, these animals, these Ashoyim, they had the chutzpah v'aza to invade unprovoked and kill and maim and pashut butcher thousands of Acheinu b'nei Yisrael. So what do you mean, why are we fighting? We have to timche zecher Amalek. We have to get rid of this threat, rid of these beasts, rid of this filth. Of course, that's why we're fighting. What other reason would there be to fight? This is the most just reason, rationale to any war that ever was. So the soldier, who was a very, very intelligent young man, he said, I'm not asking why are we fighting right now. Of course I know why we're fighting. My question is much deeper. My question is, why is it worth protecting and living in Eretz Yisrael? Meaning, by Yidden living in Eretz Yisrael, surrounded by Goyim, not just Goyim, non-Jews. You could have very wonderful non-Jewish people that are Mekayim Shev Mitzvahs B'nai Noach. That's a wonderful society. We're talking about people that every day, there are, in every of these countries, there are plans to kill Jewish people. They cannot wait for the opportunity to annihilate the Jewish people. Every single day, you have the Mossad, you have all the Secret Service, spies in every of these countries trying to prevent the plots, trying to, make sure it doesn't happen. And I'm telling you, not that I work for the Mossad, every day that there's peace in Eretz Yisrael is a Nes Gomor. It says that when Mashiach comes, Halos Hashem kol goyim shabchu kol umim ki gover aleinu chasdu. Then the time of Mashiach, the goyim are going to praise the Eibishter ki gover Hashem chasdu, because Hashem get chesed for us. What does it mean that the goyim are going to praise Hashem? So the Mefarshim say that the goyim are going to come to the Yidden when Mashiach comes and say, you guys don't realize how much you're supposed to thank Hashem. Let me tell you all the plans we had to kill you, and that Hashem miraculously saved you. Well, there's so much which is not reported. So it's just unbelievable. Every single day is a nes. Every day is a miracle. So he said like this, why do we do it? Why is it worth living in Eretz Yisrael and having to have the whole intelligence and defense system if we could all pick ourselves up, go to another country, live there, and Shalom Yisrael, there's no neighbors that want to kill us, no one that wants to bother us. Why we fighting is not why we're fighting now, but why is there the whole need of the whole being in Eretz Yisrael, the needing of an army? If we could just live, get a ranch in Texas, I don't know, disappear to a different place and live in peace? That was his question. So one of the soldiers said, I can't believe you just asked that. Don't you know that Eretz Yisrael was given to us by God? Don't you know that the Kaisel Maravi is in Eretz Yisrael? Don't you know the Moras HaMachpelah is in Eretz Yisrael? This is our patriarchs, our matriarchs. This is why we're here. This is why this represents our people. These are the holy cities. So that's why we're fighting. This is our heritage. We're fighting for our heritage. This is what the answer, and most of the soldiers shook their head. Yeah, makes sense. We're fighting for our heritage. But this soldier did not give up the original question. He said, that doesn't satisfy me. So why not? He says, I'm not convinced that I'm worth sacrificing my future and my son's future to preserve a historical past. I don't believe that it's worth the sacrifice just for some ancient holy sites. For that, we should live with such tension. For that, we should endanger the security of the Jewish people to preserve the past. Is that what it's about? Is that why we're fighting? And all of a sudden, there was a deep silence for 20 minutes. Nobody could break that silence because nobody was able to think and say, Take, why are we fighting? Why are we here? Why are we in Eretz Yisrael? What's it all about? Silence. And it's deep in Gaza, deep at night. And the world is quiet. And they know they have to break out of this. Because if they can't answer the question that night, they will not have the will to fight tomorrow. They will not have the desire, the inspiration, the motivation, the inner drive to be able to get up and face the beast the next morning if they can't answer this fundamental question of why are we fighting? And all of a sudden, one soldier got up and stuck out his hand like this. And he said, this is why we're fighting. This is why we're fighting. Try to follow. What's he pointing at? What's the this? What is the zeh? What is the this? And they see that he's pointing to the Mashiach flag that was waving on the tent of this soldier who was a flight attendant for El Al and part of the security of the airplane. So they were pointing and they said, what do you mean? Why is that flag? What is the message of that flag? And he said, we're not fighting for the past. What does it say on that flag? It says the word Mashiach. It says we're fighting for Mashiach. We're fighting, we're holding the land because at any moment Mashiach is coming. And we have to be prepared. We have to be ready. We have to hold on to the land that all of Klal Yisrael is going to come in any moment. We're not preserving history. We are preparing for the future. And the future is worth fighting for. When the soldiers heard that, says this soldier to Rabbi Yossi, they all got up and they danced and they danced and they danced. They were inspired. They now understood the secret of why we are fighting, why we are here. What is this all about? We're not fighting as revenge. We're not fighting to preserve history. We're fighting for our destiny. We're fighting for our future. Now, this story, which is an unbelievable story, shook me to my core and made me reevaluate. It made me realize that this question of why we are fighting is not just soldiers in Gaza. This question is questioned by our own children. This question is asked consciously or subconsciously by so many Yidden, Frume Yireim B'Shleimim, every single day. Every single day we wake up and we face a melchama. It may not be with weapons and with Hamas, Shemach Shemam, but it's with our Yetzer Hara, with our Nefesh HaBahamis, with our Taivas, with the Olam Hazeh, with the concealment that we don't yet have the fully Galos of the Rebbe, and therefore it's Choshech, we feel the darkness. And deep down, there can be a question in the neshama of our children. Well, let's be honest, it could be a question in our own neshama. And that question is, so why are we fighting? Why are we fighting? What is motivating us? What should keep us in the fight? Because we're here to preserve the history of Lubavitch, because we're here to hold on to the past. We don't live for the past. We're here to prepare for Mashiach. We're here to prepare for the future. Geula is the most inspiring message to counter any question of the melchama that each and every one of us, our children, our communities are facing. And if we hold back the message of Geula, the flag, and I don't mean a literal flag, but if we hold back the message of Geula from any person in the world, we're taking away from them the answer, the most fundamental answer to the most fundamental question of why are we fighting? And it is our responsibility on the Chag HaGeula that this message is internalized, that we live with this message, and we take upon ourselves the hachlata, the resolution, to make sure that every single person that we can influence, we give them this secret. We are megala this soid. There's an unbelievable pasuk that's in the Tanakh. We all know the story of the Arba Mitzrayim. There were 4 people that were lepers, Mitzrayim, and they were outside of the city of Eretz Yisrael. And we know that there was a bunch of goyim. They came and they wanted to conquer the city, and there was a siege and a famine. And overnight, the whole Hashem made a miracle, and they all ran away. And it was a tremendous ness. And it says that the amount that it cost to buy food dropped like to a penny. And the Yidden at the time the Yidden inside the walls of the city didn't even realize that salvation was here yet. So the Mitzrayim, they came to these empty tents of these soldiers, and they see food and everything. And they're like, oh, we'll tell the people tomorrow. Like, we don't have to rush to tell the people in the city that the ness happened. And then one of them turns to their friend and says, how could we hold back? Yoim b'soidahi. It's a day of good news. It's a day of tremendous besoida. How could we not share this with the whole people inside the city that they may not know? They're still fighting the enemy, not realizing that the enemy has been dispersed by miracles of Hashem. That's the way we have to feel. We have to realize that Mashiach is not a tag word. Mashiach is the purpose of creation and the answer to the question of why we're fighting. And that makes, not just when we live with a Mashiach mindset, we become B'nai Choyrin. I don't want to speak at great length. I don't have the time. But 40 years ago today, we know that it says in Gemara that 40 years later, you can finally understand the depth of a teaching of your teacher. Today is Yud Beis Tammuz Tafshin Pei Hey, tonight. 40 years ago was Yud Beis Tammuz Tafshin Mem Hey. And of course, the Rebbe led a big Farbrengen on Yud Beis Tammuz Tafshin Mem Hey. And the Rebbe spoke many, many fascinating points. One of the points the Rebbe spoke by that Farbrengen is that the Frierdiker Rebbe, while he was in Golos, in prison, and in Kasterma, which meant pretty much a city prison, he wasn't able to leave. Inside his mind, he was a Ben Choyden. He never allowed Golos to reshape and redefine his mindset. In his mind, in his reality, he was a Ben Choyden. Just because the Goyim punished him, put him in prison, put him in this wall, in this city-like cage, didn't change the fact that in his mind, he was a Ben Choyden. And because in his mind, he was a Ben Choyden, he was free. He lived the Geula in his mind, so automatically that came out in a physical way as well. There was nobody that can change that. Our job and our responsibility is to be B'nai Choyden, that it's not just that we give over a message of Geula. We have to live with a Geula mindset. And when you have a Geula mindset, the whole world follows you. That becomes the reality that you live. I can tell you so many stories, firsthand stories, but now is not the time. Just when you decide that that's it, not just I believe in Hashem. It says that when you come to Shabbos, Mrs. Rapp said I have to speak about Bitochen for a moment. When it comes to Shabbos, it's not just that you're not supposed to think about the work that you're supposed to do the rest of the week. It's not just you're not supposed to speak about the work that's done the rest of the week. Chazal say you have to enter Shabbos, kilu kol melachtecha asuya. It's all done. In other words, there's one way. I want to speak about it. So much I need to do, but I'm muzzled. The Shabbos muzzles me. But what happens if in your mind, kol melachtecha asuya? It's all done. So therefore, I don't need to speak about something that's already been done. The mindset is kol melachtecha asuya. Everything is taken care of. Everything is good. Everything is done. Everything is where it's supposed to be. And that's what it means to live a life of bitochen. Living a life of bitochen is a life that not I believe that the Eibishter will make things good. It's good. It's taken care of. I'm set. I'm okay. Things are the way it's supposed to be, and things are good the way it's supposed to be. I don't always see it, but that's the mindset that I have. Melachtecha asuya, it's done. And that's the Geula mindset. And when we are a Ben Choyden, when we internalize and we become free in our own life, people say, how can I be like that? What is giving today when people have everything, the thing they don't have is peace of mind and peace of heart. When they see a Yid that's living Mashiach as a Ben Choyden, because he's learning about Mashiach, the Torah of Mashiach, and he becomes free, and he lives free of the anxieties, free of the temptations. He's living a life of Melachtecha Asuya, of Shabbos. He's living a life of Geula, and he's teaching and he's exuding Geula to the world. That answers all the questions. That gives everyone their understanding of their mission and their purpose. So I want to say l'chaim. I want to make sure that we all get the message, that we have the treasure to share with the entire world. This is not something we are allowed to hold back. Why should there be another Yid struggling with the question of why we're fighting? If we can share the message, we can give them the flag of Geula. L'chaim, l'chaim. And may it be a Chag HaGeula Kipshuta in the most literal sense, with the Iskalos, take it from Yad Mamish. Thank you for the source.
I am totally awed, and I think we all are just totally awed and so inspired. How to internalize. I think it was given over tonight. The story was totally awesome. The story was amazing. not only the story, but tying it together with Amunah, B'tochen, Beis Tammuz, and living Geuladik, living Mashiach. I don't want to get out of this bubble of this Mashiach mindset. Just, we shouldn't. We are there, and we are strong to be able to continue. We had two amazing, amazing speakers. Thank you so much, Rabbi Gershonavson and Tzirel Turen, and thank you all for joining tonight. And we just feel that the keches, the power of Chag HaGeula, of Yud Beis Tammuz, should give us like Geula Prati, Geula Klali, and see the scholars of the Rebbe Melch HaMashiach taken me on the Mishnah. Good Yantif, and thank you again so much for joining. Take care.